This is Laura, aka the Sound Sommelier, talking with Bio of the legendary TATS Cru, aka the Mural Kings. Bio, what's your earliest memory of hip hop?
My earliest memory, hip hop, I had to be in my early teens. I grew up in Bronx River Projects. So, you had like Africa Bambaataa doing, music in the community center in the park. So it had to be to my early teens, in the very beginning of hip hop, way before like the Planet Rock days and stuff like that. So we're talking about early 80s.
So how did growing up in the Bronx influence your style even before you got into graffiti?
I mean, it was just a lifestyle, around you. Everybody, I grew up in Bronx River Projects, and, we were into everything. Some of our friends were into MCing, some were DJs, some were B-boys, and graffiti. So it was basically just a lifestyle. So it was just like your neighborhood influenced you, the music, the clothes, just how everybody was living life. It was just your neighborhood, and that's, what you emulated.
Right. Were you artistic in school?
Yeah, actually, I've always been interested in drawing. I mean, ever since I was young, I used to try to like copy the cartoons on the Sunday comics and that sort of stuff. I would open up the Sunday papers and just see which comic books I could copy. And then I remember probably around the fourth grade, one of our teachers gave us an assignment to create a logo with your initials. And I was just like super excited. Like I did the project before I even went home. I had it done before that.
Oh yeah.
My dog is here trying to bring me toys.
That's okay. My son is locked out of the room right now, so hopefully he doesn't try to jump in. When did you discover your love for graffiti?
Again, I grew up in New York City, so it was just something I remember maybe about the age of 14, noticing like graffiti on the side of a subway car. I was coming out of a subway car. I had just come from downtown, and I stepped out of the train. And when the doors closed, there was just like this cartoon character on the outside. And I was like, no, go away. And I was just like, wow, this is something I need to do. I want to find out more. So I ran back to the projects where I live. Goodbye.
That's okay.
And then I started asking everyone. I said, yo, what's that stuff I saw on this train? They were like, oh, that's graffiti. That's, you got to get a name. You got to get up. I was like, all right, I need a name and I need to get up. So that was my introduction. And once, I had that moment where I saw that from then on, like it was everywhere for me now. I didn't realize it to that point, but right after that point, it was just everywhere.
Yeah. Once you noticed it.
Yeah.
So you started your career in the early '80s at the height of the NYC subway graffiti movement.
Yeah.
How did your environment influence your art once you started tagging trains?
I mean, I remember I grew up at a time when you had all the like subway greats. You had guys like Lee, Dondi, Scene, Zephyr, all these guys, Crash Days, Shy, the rock stars. All these guys were like doing whole cars, colors, characters. So I had a great school to learn from, even though it was like an unofficial school. You could just sit on a platform and just study, trains all day long and watch, stuff go by, different styles, coloring. So, it was an amazing time for me.
Right. Where did your tag come from? Or what's the story about it?
My tag, I mean, not too complicated. I had tried, different names. I tried VIO, then I tried like DAB, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine in the staircase, and he had really good hand style at the time. He used to write View, V-U-E, and he took a tag, a BIO. He said, what about BIO? And I liked the way the letters fit. So I was like, yeah, let me try that. And it just sort of stuck. That became, my name.
Nice and simple.
Point.
Who are some of your early influences?
Again, guys like, Scene, Zephyr, Crash, Days, Lee, Dondi, Dez, a lot of guys from TMT, who were painting back then. It was just so many to look. There was so much to look at. Like you could take bits and pieces and kind of like, I like the coloring this guy does. I like the lettering of this guy. And you kind of just formulated your own style from that.
Right. So there wasn't just one that stood out the most where you're like, I really like what he's doing. I'm going to build on that. Or
I think Scene was probably a big influence just because of how simple and clean his lettering and coloring was. Because it was something like his colors just appealed, like they seemed to pop. Whereas I liked his coloring, but I wanted to do the lettering a bit more complicated. Enough, Rumi, go away. Can you take him? Sorry about that. No, no,
That's fine. Oh.
here, stay. You want to see? You want to
Hi.
watch what's going on?
He's like, I just need to be part of this.
Yeah, he wants to be on live. Okay, stop.
Come on with me.
All right, good. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. So were you a fan of bombing solo back in the day, or did you like working with a crew? Or
I mean, at the time you did both. If you found people to go with, you would go, and then if you want, obviously alone you had to be more careful. You had more of a chance of running into a group bigger than you, or you had no one to really look
look
out
out
for.
for you? Mm-hmm.
So, normally that's why I believe crews were formed just for that whole, sake. There's power in numbers and that sort of thing. So, it was more crew than solo missions.
Has that changed at all?
I mean, I don't do much bombing these days. It's something I haven't done in years. I kind of like, how much more can you do? You've done rooftops, highways, subways, streets. You can do the same thing for 40 years. It's you have to sort of evolve and move on from it. Even though I am a fan of bombing. I love, I'm still watching, seeing what's out there, and I've always paid attention.
So you're a founding member of the TATS Crew. What was the impetus behind the formation of that collective?
Yeah, the original originally the crew was TAT. That was Brim had came up with the concept. There were a lot of crews back then that were 3 letters. Like TNT, TMT, TLP. So we were like, let's the A is the first letter in the alphabet. So we, Brim came up with TAT, and originally it was the art team. Then it became, top artistic talent. Teenagers are tough, and in like the mid 90s, early 90s, that's when we added the S, because when we had connected with Fat Joe. This is before he was doing, he was doing music, but he wasn't known yet. And he had a crew called TS Terror Squad. So we kind of united and we're doing stuff together. And we did a wall where I did a TAT, and then instead of doing 2 T's, I did an S. And then people were like, oh, so that's TATS Cru. And we're like, no, it's TATS. And they're like, no, it says TATS Cru. Like, all right, it's TATS Cru. And after a while, it just became TATS Cru.
Just kind of stuck.
Yeah,
so you're known for your explosive use of color. How do you go about choosing which colors to use in any given piece? Do you have go-tos that you're like, it always needs to have this, or it's just however you're feeling?
No, it's what's ever available for me. I'll grab it, and then even if it's like browns, orange, gray, I'll be like, all right, what can I use to make these colors pop? So for me, that's the challenge. I just enjoy working with all the colors. Doesn't matter whether it's a dark palette, light palette. I'll just mix it to bring out the best in whatever color selection I have.
Yeah, I saw a video of you from last year where you had an exhibit where you had 1 or 2 of the grays and black colors, and it came up.
Yeah. That was something I wanted to try to see if I could still capture that, like the motion and the explosiveness and the pop of it, but eliminating color. So,
Right.
That was one of my little experiments and stuff.
Nice. So you've been touted as a true master of the New York style painting. What do you think differentiates the New York style from graffiti in another city?
New York is very letter-based, heavy letter-based, and it's always been about style, So, a lot of different, cultures have contributed to graffiti, but New York is the structure of the letter. They have to make sense, where a connection goes, tucks behind the letter, pops out on the other side. They have to sort of like make sense, and there's a certain way where New York has that not advantage, but in the way they paint, as opposed to someone who hasn't been trained that way. They're just more free flowing. Like the letters don't have to make sense. It'll just be wobbly, fat, skinny, weird angles. Whereas New York, even though it's complicated wild style, everything has to make some sort of sense in a way.
Right. Are there consistent elements that can be found throughout your body of work?
I guess I try to keep my work pretty clean, neat, the colors, arrows, like, I guess anyone else. And then I guess it's nothing particular different. Water droplets I use here a lot. I've been using the heart motif probably.
And bring up the heart.
For that came about maybe like 2009, so it's going now almost on, I don't know, 10, 12 more
More than 10 years, yeah.
All right, more, almost 20 years. Sure. No,
Um,
no, sorry, 10. I lost you.
yeah, just over 10. What message do you aim to convey when starting a piece? Is that
Um,
important to you?
no, it wasn't even like that. I just did it randomly one time, and then kind of was weird and funky. And a friend of mine was like, "Yeah, that's cool. You should continue doing it." And I kept doing it, and when I didn't do it, people were like, "Yo, where's the heart that you do?" I'm like, "The heart." They're like, "Yeah, you should do the heart." So I kept doing it, and it's sort of evolved over the years where it started out like really raggedy with more layers, and then it's kind of I've taken away a layer and gave it more of a defined, still rugged shape. But it's evolved, and then as time went on, it went from being something in the mural to actually being the entire mural, where I would use the whole wall with the heart, and then do all the designs and colors inside, and try just try to experiment with it. And I'm kind of
Um,
got stuck with it.
in a good way, I guess.
Yeah,
So you've had the opportunity to paint in numerous countries throughout your career, spanning more than 30 years. Do you have any
yeah.
favorite spots or stories to share from your travels?
I mean, it's different, different location. I mean, it's a different adventure in every country. Some countries are too hot, some are too cold. But I've been fortunate where been able to experience a lot of different cultures and see a lot of different things through the art. So for that, I'm grateful. Go away. For that, I'm grateful. So and I can't say any one country was more. I may have had more fun in one country or less time for painting, but it's for me, it's all an experience where it's all because of the art. So I'm grateful for that.
And then did your environment in any given country influence your work or?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. Depending. It could be a simple thing as, all right, the heat is intense. I'm gonna do something where stuff is melting, or I'm gonna use a specific color because I'm in Ireland, so I got influenced by the colors of the flag or something. So yeah, it all depends where. Yeah, it's always has an effect on you. Your environment.
Right. So you and other TATS crew members were invited to speak to an audience at MIT almost 20 years ago about your move from the streets of the Bronx to the corporate
Yeah,
America. How do you
yeah.
feel the art of graffiti was viewed back then versus how it is now?
I mean, we've been able to experience a lot of experiences that way, speaking at colleges. I mean, the MIT was a unique experience for us. It was actually eye-opening experience to see the MIT culture within the students, like laboratories or classrooms. And I think part of the reason we were brought there was to help work with some of these students who are so involved in their classrooms that on a day-to-day social event, they were
Right.
just like
They didn't know what to do
way
with themselves.
way advanced. Like we had lunch, we would sit and have lunch with some of them, and be like, "Hey, what are you working on?" And they would go into, "Well, I'm trying to do this transistor," and we're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa! Slow down. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Like you pretend we're 4 years old and don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about." So it was that for us to experience their culture and vice versa. So, and we actually went twice to MIT, so that was pretty cool experience. And for us, it's just been a journey. The whole thing of where this art has taken us, from subways to institutions, of higher learning to the different places around the world.
Mhm.
It's
Um,
just
did, yeah. Did you ever see yourself being asked to create campaigns for companies like McDonald's or Coca-Cola or MTV?
Yeah, I mean, we've done that all. We started in '95 doing work with Coca-Cola. They were doing a project at the time called Living in Harmony. And one of the things was they would choose three high school students to work. And the first three prizes were they would get some sort of scholarship, and their work would get replicated somewhere in the neighborhood. So that's where we came in. We started replicating the artwork in the neighborhoods. And then that gave us the idea, like, if we're doing it for this company, why don't we just secure a bunch of locations all over the city, and we can reach out to other companies. And that's how we started kind of doing more of the commercial work where, we got walls in Brooklyn, we got walls in Queens, and then it spread and became nationwide. Then we started, networking with artists in, Miami, LA, Chicago, and just getting locations. And then, at one point we were just, doing nationwide campaigns for a lot of these corporations, which, at the time, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you sold out, you're this and that." And for us, it was just a natural, moving
Progression.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it was like now everybody wants to be sponsored and get corporate money and do that. But at the time, I was complaining like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" I'm like, "This is it. They're using our art to promote products to do it. If we do not jump in, we will be left out." So
Right.
that was our reaction. Like, instead of sitting back and complaining about it, we need to get in there, at least have some control over what and how our artwork is used.
Right. And you're showing the younger generation that there is a way to make money off of their artistic talents.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, and we've been able, to help and employ a lot of other artists, that have worked with us throughout the years. So it gave us the opportunity to not only meet a lot of artists, but also to, help them, make money as well. It wasn't about, obviously we wanted to make money, but we figured, listen, we can't do it all. We're going to need more than us. So this is where we started bringing in, other artists.
Nice. How has the pandemic affected your work? Are you able to concentrate and maximize the time you have at home? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty balanced, I guess. I'll paint smaller canvases. For the last 3 or 4 months, I was just not going anywhere. So I was at home. I would paint a few smaller paintings. I started painting more with acrylic, kind of learned patience because I have no patience. So it was a good training and session for me to kind of slow down and learn to work at a slower pace.
Right.
So, and I actually have, 1 or 2 more paintings that I've been trying to finish. But now that, kind of New York City's opened up a bit, we've been, called to do murals and work again. So, I'll just do the work and just come right back in and play it safe.
Nice. What's your opinion on the role that art will play in the new normal that everyone's been talking about?
I mean, art is always going to play its role, but it has, for years. It's always been there. It will always be there. It's an outlet for people. It's an escape. It changes the mood, people's moods, environments. It's a way of getting a message across. It's a language. So, even in the new norm now, it's still going to be there. Whether the message may change, where you're focusing on murals with get down, bite me.
He wants your attention.
Yeah, he does. I just got home. He wants to play. Whether the art is going to be there, the message is going to be what's different. Whether it's murals that include people, and you've already seen it, where there's murals, people wearing face masks, or messages, or art is always going to adapt to its surroundings and influence the surroundings.
Very much so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you had a week-long residency at Juxtaposition Arts in Minneapolis last year, where you completed an 840 square foot mural on the JXTA campus.
Yes.
Do you think the current pandemic and possible future recurrences will keep the crew's artistic opportunities closer to home?
I think so for the time being. Yeah, I can't see us we had projects that were scheduled to happen in England and Thailand. So, a lot of those projects have definitely been put on hold just because of the travel ban. So I can't see us going too far, and especially given the other, the condition of what's happening in other states, so for the most time, I think most of the stuff we'll be doing is at home here in New York.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about virtual exhibitions as an alternative to reach a broader audience who don't have the opportunity to travel to see your work? Or for you to
I have mixed feelings. I like it, the idea that you can reach a wider audience, but it also, I feel it lacks the intimacy of being in a gallery setting, actually being able to see and talk with the artists, get feedback on the artwork. That, that element of it is kind of missing. Virtual, gallery shows are cool. You can see that, anywhere on the planet, you can see the show going on. But I think what's missing is that, social element of it. It plays a big part of it, and especially
chat room is not the same thing.
Yeah, no, when you're talking with collectors and vice versa, collectors want to meet the artist before, just get to know more about the art and the artist himself. So that's kind of going to be missing. But I guess moving forward, we'll adapt and we'll adjust.
Right, if you want to be successful. So can you share a bit about the planning that went into the massive Black Lives Matter mural downtown on Center Street, as well as thoughts on its execution and completion?
Yeah, that was that was a big undertaking. That project had a lot of moving parts, and that was very challenging, not only physically but mentally, like preparing for something that size. And then we were only given 3 days to complete it, so it was just like, for the 2-3 days before the project actually began, I was already like breaking my head. I'm like, how am I going to do like 22-foot letters by 600 feet? I need to measure and space this out. It was just like torture before the project began. And then the physical part of it was just physically being on your knees, for 12 hours in 90-degree heat, because we had to, we helped to curate, to bring in all the artists, who were going to participate in the project. So, just organizing that end of it, figuring out, the supplies, just the complexity of the whole project. It was challenging. It was a collaboration between, architect. It was like WXY Architect and Design Company, the Manhattan Borough President's Office, Black Lives Matter New York. Then you had the artists who designed the artwork for each individual word. You had 3 different artists who actually designed the art that we worked from. And then we had to reach out to about 14 artists ourselves in our network to come and actually paint. We had to make sure everybody had their supplies, their artwork. It was just madhouse.
Were you all out there at the same time, or are you kind of going?
Yeah, the first day we were out there first because we laid out all the lettering and had the word already based primed. So when the artists arrived, all they had to do was paint on their letter. So all the difficult work took place the first day. We're laying out, getting everything organized, but again, it was just a brutal 12-hour, 3 days, under intense, no shade heat. I mean, the first day it rained like intense.
I saw your post.
Yeah, it just the first day we started on the B, we started filling it in, and it just torrential rain, and you see the paint flowing down the street, and we're like, okay, this is great. And not to mention that we had 3-hour late start because the DOT hadn't closed the street yet. They were supposed to close it at 8 a.m. in the morning. They didn't close it till 11, and we're just sitting around for 3 hours waiting for them to shut down the streets. So it was a lot of things that kind of cut into our time, but we were, once we got it rolling, we finished on schedule.
Nice. Do you have any current projects or future projects that you want to speak about?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on a huge mural next week here in New York on 207th Street and 10th Avenue. We had did a 9/11 mural years ago, I think going now on 19 years. And the landlord just reached out to us. He wants to redo a new New York themed mural, so that's one of the projects. Then I have another exciting gallery that I'm working with from Thailand. It's called Aurum Gallery. Started by a good friend of mine, Goldie, and some partners of his. And the gallery just recently opened, I think, this July 4th or something like that. So, I have work over there. So, still continuing, it doesn't, despite what's been going on, we've been at this for so long. We've learned to live on down times and high times. So, obviously it's been a rough time, but we know how to survive through these shallow waters at the moment.
Which is why you're still around.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Goldie's. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, that gallery is pretty. I mean, the video I haven't been there. I was supposed to be there for the opening, but it's amazing space. Like the way it's designed, the actual space, and then the lineup of artists that he's curated. It's a pretty nice lineup.
Do you know how Thailand's dealing with the virus? Like, is it going to be difficult over there?
From what I understand, they're pretty good. They're not as bad as we are. They're doing pretty good. I think they put it in check early on, so the cases aren't as severe as here in the States. I think we're the only
worry so much.
No, but I mean, we can't travel anywhere at the moment, so it's like we're not going anywhere. Sit tight.
A lot of waiting. Well, Bio, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I
hope you have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thank you, and thank you again for inviting me.
Oh, anytime. Please come back.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.